Hi, and welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle Albers, and today we have returning, perhaps favorite special guest, Dr. Kat Kronemeyer. Welcome, Kat. Intention for today. I have one right
Go
off the
for it.
top of my
Yep,
head,
let's do
and
it.
if you want to add to it, feel free.
Okay.
My intention is to be creative with regard to how we care for ourselves this time of year. I say that in like this dreaded tone because I feel like people get so sick and tired of hearing this time of year. But I think if we can be creative in how we navigate ourselves in every moment, then this time of year can be something different if it's a time of year that is challenging for you.
I like it.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit about like what are different ways we can care for ourselves when it's chaotic or when we're feeling off. I'm going to just use off because that's like vague in general versus like labeling specific things that can come up for people because I feel like it's so unique to the individual. But I feel like there was so much of my life that I was just stuck, like stuck in the suck, and really never even pondered that there might be a way out. And then along the way, along the journey, meeting people and communities and like guides and mentors who could help me find a new way, I realized that like that doesn't have to be the case. I don't have to stay stuck, and it doesn't have to suck quite so terribly. Not to say that there isn't struggles and challenges, but that really, when you allow creativity and play, and even just like one simple different choice, the big, huge effects that can come from that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about even just being aware, like, oh, I'm in autopilot right now and just
Yeah.
going through the motions, you know. Even that little tiny bit of awareness lets you either make the choice to stay the path or to like get off the path and try something different. Like, oh, maybe I want to be more intentional about the next 10 minutes of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe I want to, or even get to choose something that might even bring me 10 minutes of joy or fun or play, or I don't know. Creativity is the word that keeps coming in for me today. And I think part of that is because you brought up the artist's way.
Yeah.
And there's so much of that that is creativity, like whether it be the morning pages where you're writing or whether it be like actually carving out time for art. I use that word broadly.
Yeah.
Or just simply like you said, taking a moment and setting an intention that takes you somewhere for yourself. And I think that might be like a highlight, like big highlight starred exclamation point, you know, shine bright, like for yourself. Like you get to invite that in for yourself. You get to it's just so easy to roll into the pattern of being in service this time of year at the expense of yourself.
Yes.
And I think like being in service can be a great, wonderful, beautiful thing. And this seems to be the time of year where that can get like it can spiral out of control to the point of depletion.
Yes. Quickly.
Very quickly.
Not only are we doing the everyday life stuff, there are a lot of additional expectations, dates, tasks, things to do.
Yeah.
Gatherings, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure if you let yourself feel pressured, you know?
Yeah. Well, and even before we hit the record button, we were talking about like, well, what are some things that we can do that might be different to like even sign up for? It's like we tell ourselves we don't have time you know, in the
Mhm.
busy, in the chaos, but it's like, but do you not have time for a 2 hour restorative yoga class that, or even an hour and a half that might just, I mean, it's gonna take you 2 hours to get there and back and all that, but like to just take a moment and pause and allow yourself some relief
Right.
or to go take an art class. I don't know, because I also feel like there's a lot of places around this time of year that have fun, unique things to do because
Mhm.
of holiday parties or, you know, it's like they kind of come out of the woodwork and it's like, oh, look, we could go paint and sip, or we could go, you know, there's all these different options.
Mrs. Kelly's has a tea tasting this time of year, which is like
Yeah,
not something I would normally do, right? But that would
right.
be super fun. Or just like swing by Mia and do a walkthrough for in a gallery. Like it doesn't have to be an all day thing, but it could just be an hour.
Yeah.
Or like I love doing holiday light driving.
Oh my gosh.
That's like one of my favorites is
It's
to
so
go find a
fun.
really good neighborhood and just do the cruise around, and that's enjoyable.
Oh my gosh, I was just having a flashback. I can't believe I'm gonna tell this story on the podcast, but like there was a year that you gave me like a pin on a map of a neighborhood that had great lights.
Yeah.
And Dan and I tried to find it. And it was like, well, I don't know if I got the pin wrong or what, but there was like nothing there. And he still to this day like makes fun of me and you for that. Like
That is super funny.
so when you said the lights, I was like, oh
Probably me.
shit. Because I was like, dude, I don't see anything to you. He's like, no, there's nothing here. I'm like, maybe it's back in that neighborhood. And it was just, there was nothing. It was just like this
Is this
intersection
the
of
one
nothingness.
by your old house?
I don't even remember.
That's
I just remember
hilarious.
we've been I mean, we laughed so hard about it. It's just such a dumb little thing. But even that, like, it's like you could get annoyed and frustrated by it, or you can
Right.
just like, I mean, the amount of joy that we have come from, like, we saw zero lights, but still 2
But
years later,
yeah,
we're
lives
still,
on and
yeah, we're still giggling about it.
I had a moment with we just moved on Sunday. We hosted Thanksgiving on Thursday. We're recording on Monday, so I'm a little tired. Um, but something happened with Dave and I in our new house, and we're like unpacking or something. And I mean, it was one of those moments where I could have gotten really snippy, and like I said something like kind of a little sharp, and then I was on a step ladder and I got off the step ladder and I just started laughing at myself,
Yeah.
because like I could have kept going down like this snarky, upset grump path, but I got off the ladder and I just started laughing and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so ridiculous right now. That was so uncalled for. And, so I turned it into something really silly because like it just did not want to get into like a super grumpy place.
Yeah.
But recognizing like, oh my God, you're being ridiculous. Like, why do you have your undies in a bunch about this? Like, calm it down, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things about Dan and like how we navigate together is like when things could turn into the snark,
Yeah.
we have this way of making it playful and fun. And then it becomes a stupid story that 2 years later you say this simple little thing. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the life that Dan and I tried to find that didn't exist that I'm still hearing about every year when we
Every
decide,
year.
hey, you want to go look at lights that don't exist? Maybe we could pin it on a map and send it to Kat.
Yes, do it. That'd be so funny.
Just pin you like the darkest spot in the city. Like, hey, there's no lights, but check out those stars. Oh, it's so funny. P.S. You said you were super tired because of moving. I'm like, I just got back from
Yes.
Thailand on Saturday and I am
must be
like drunk, tired, jet lagged.
Exhausted.
I don't know what time it is in Thailand right now, but it is not daytime. It's like middle of the night.
I was gonna say it's like 12 hours difference, so we're
It's
approaching
13, yeah.
13. We're approaching 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fun.
Fun and silly and
Fun and
exhausting.
silly and exhausting. Circling back to what we were talking about before we hit record.
Christmas lights.
Well, we were talking about just ways to invest in yourself,
Mhm.
and not being afraid to do that. And I was like, I don't want it to just be JD stuff. I think there's a million different things we can invest in
Mhm.
to help ourselves to bring some joy into our lives, but we can also deep dive, and those are the kind of things that we do have here. Like, I mean, in January, we're doing another summit,
Mhm.
you know, where
A
we're going to talk about,
manifestation.
yeah, the art of manifestation, and not like your typical manifestation weekend. We're going to bring in some concepts and transformational work
Mhm.
that just might not be what you think. And I don't
Mhm.
really want to go into too much detail about it because it's like,
Oh, it is
just,
right.
yeah, just, show up if it calls to you.
Mhm.
It's a reasonable, affordable weekend.
Yep.
But there's not just that, right? There's just so many things like you were talking about, so many different free things that you can do just to give yourself a way to ground and reset and find some playfulness and creativity. And I think too, in Minnesota, this is easy for me to say today. I come back from Thailand and there's snow on the ground here, but like winter can get the doldrums
Mhm.
going. And even if you like winter, it can get like long and old and boring at some point. It's like there's many, many things we can do if we choose to open our mind to the fact that we don't have to be snarky
Right.
or upset about it,
Yeah, I mean, conservatory comes to mind, and that's
Yeah.
relatively inexpensive or free, depending on, the day and your financial resources. We just did a ton of furniture shopping, which in some ways is like lovely, right? It's like all these ideas and these cool arrangements and neat stuff. And like, I don't think we bought a dang thing, but I spent most of the day
Yeah.
driving all over trying to find furniture for our new place. And it was like somewhat enjoyable. And I got to have dim sum at like a new place I'd never been to. And that was fun.
And I think that's a really good point of just finding something that you haven't done before.
Mhm.
Like maybe you love dim sum, but you want to try and find a new place and the Google can help you with that,
Right. I think novelty is really, really important, especially as we get into like January, February, and March, when it's like still gray, it's cold, 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 it's still snowy.
Yeah.
The holidays are over, and yeah, it's starting to get long.
Well, and I think the other thing, like when you said the holidays are over, I just heard expectations. And I
Yeah.
think to really be mindful about like what expectations are you setting on yourself and are they reasonable? Like,
Mhm.
are they necessary?
Mine never are, and they're not necessary.
No.
I can tell you that 100%.
Right. It's like
every freaking year I do the same thing. And
I know.
Okay, this year's gonna be different. It really is, I swear.
Yeah, and it's like, what if we forget the expectations and what if we bring in awareness and intention and kindness and compassion? Because I think the compassion and kindness piece are what is so often missing. We dive right into judgment, and
Yes.
and self, I don't know, just meanness. And what if we turned that around and turned it into compassion and playfulness and fun and exploration?
Mm.
Like, what if we just ask what if questions and discover and uncover instead of like giving ourselves a structure that creates expectations and like points of failure,
Right.
I think the free flow can feel a little more vulnerable because it doesn't have as much structure. But I feel like it doesn't breed expectations to that level of, I don't know, imminent failure is just the way it's feeling as I'm saying it.
Mhm.
And I also was a person who's like, okay, it's the new year. I'm gonna, eat better, move more, treat myself better, find, you know, um, the perfect people in my life that are gonna, feed my soul on a level. It's like, what the hell? Is any of this even reasonable or realistic? Like, and also, what if that already exists in your life and you're just telling yourself it doesn't because A, you don't think you're worthy, or B, like there's so many layers to how all that trickery comes into play as
Mhm.
well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the new year is really hard because it is like all of these expectations and societal pressures about, we just had our Fat Tuesday, so to speak, with the holidays and overindulgence and blah, blah, blah. And then we're all gonna start dieting and working out every day and do all, the 17 habits every morning that you're supposed to do to be this like great
Yeah.
like
We're gonna become perfect.
right? Like every year, and like the same cycle repeats itself. And like, but why? Like we don't have to do any of that if we don't want to.
Right.
Really don't have to.
Yeah. And I just go to like what purpose does that actually serve? Is it serving my best and highest good? Because those kind of thoughts for me, the answer was always no. It led me to not feeling super great about myself and struggling with self-worth and self-esteem and self-love and confidence and all of those things.
Just feeling depleted before you even started.
Yeah.
Like feeling like you already failed before you even tried, which is like the antithesis of what we're going for here.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if this is helpful, but it just feels like so many of our conversations this time of year with us like being friends,
Mhm.
but then also with us working with clientele, it's just like there's this added layer of frazzledness in the energy. There's an
Mhm.
added layer of heaviness in the energy. There's an added layer of like almost like what's the word I'm looking for? It's not devastation, but that's the one that's coming in. Just like giving like a almost like a it's so intense I just want to give up kind of a
Mhm.
kind of like that energy of
Yeah,
just like
defeated.
yeah, defeated, and like I'm just throwing my hands up in the air and just saying fuck it, I don't I don't care about anything anymore because I'm too tired, you know. And
Mhm.
it's like, oh my gosh, that's when the walk at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, or the, you know, restorative yoga class, or the phone a friend and go to the conservatory,
Mhm.
or I don't know, there's so many different things, but something that's not just sitting in the swirl, and something that's different than what you normally do,
Mhm.
and something that even maybe it's not a free thing. Maybe it is an actual choice to invest in yourself.
Yeah, because then you have
That
a time.
means
Yeah,
something.
you have a time, a date, a meaningful experience coming up that you might be looking forward to.
Yeah, and there is something about like when you actually invest your hard-earned
Mhm.
like resources into yourself, it adds a layer
Yeah.
of like the meaning behind the choice.
Mhm.
And it sounds like such a silly thing, but I realize like it's true for me too. If I have a free option or something that I have to think long and hard about whether or not I want to invest my resources into, I put more time, effort, and energy into the one I'm
Oh,
actually
absolutely.
investing
Yep.
versus like the free thing. It's like, well, I can do that anytime. It's free. You know, it's easy to kind of shove it to the back burner or not take it as seriously.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know for me, like if I sign up for something that's like self-paced, asynchronous, I can't tell you how many classes I have that are like partway done, half started, because I can do that later. I can do that anytime. I'll make time for it. I never make time for it.
right.
If I sign up for something that is like, you know, live in person,
Yeah, we start
whatever.
at 3, we end
Yeah,
at 4:30.
exactly. I will plan my day around that, right? But
Mhm.
if it's like, oh, I can just do that whenever, it's 100% not happening.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said for like choosing something for yourself. Like, you know, like you talked about on a previous podcast, I think it was a shadow work podcast, where you're like, I took a weekend to myself.
Yeah.
And I had my little, you know, sanctuary and I did my own thing. And it might feel like that's a great thing to do this time of year, but also what if you choose something that's in a community that you actually like want to be
Yes.
in, you know? And I'm not claiming that everybody doesn't want to be with their family, but holidays in general, there's usually some layer of someone that gets complicated for people because
Mhm.
it's more than most and there's not always a lot of choice. And yet we always have the choice, right?
Yeah.
But to choose something with like phone a best friend and say, hey, let's go do this thing together because it would mean a lot to me and I think we could both use it.
Mhm.
That goes so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And we live in a place where there's a million choices.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on every weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, like Christmas markets and like, I was just thinking, the is it International Market Square where they have all the cool food and like all of the neato little shops and stuff like that?
I think so. I don't know if it's still
I think it's still
going,
there.
but I
Yeah.
think so.
I mean, there's so many cool things. I mean, even like visiting a cathedral, right? Like,
Mhm.
how many times like have you been in the Basilica? Like, have you been to St. Paul's Cathedral? Like, there's just so many cool things that are like gorgeous and awesome and probably beautiful, like extra beautiful this time of year.
Mhm. Well, and I love the idea of finding something that you haven't done before.
Mhm.
Like, because if this time of year is feeling chaotic for you, or if you're finding yourself feeling judgy with yourself or feeling a heavier energy, like we were
Mhm.
talking about, then choosing something completely different
Yeah.
creates a shift that you might not think matters all that much, but it's amazing how powerful and intense that can be in a really positive way.
Yeah. I was just thinking like I was getting like owly and like off kilter because I was like in my house trying to decide where all these stupid things go in a new space. And I don't know where anything lives, like, right? And I'm like overwhelmed with items, and I would just finally just be like, okay, I gotta go outside. And so I would just like walk outside, like go around my yard, like go to the mailbox, like take the compost bucket out, like just do something outside. And even those brief like 5 minutes were so helpful
Yeah.
because I'm outside, it's like a temperature shift, like fresh air, change of scenery, all of those things. So even if you are not an outside lover in Minnesota in the winter, there are days where you probably could swing a little bit of time outside.
Yeah, I love that you just brought us to the recipes episode that we did, where it was like change your physical state.
Yep.
Move, do
Yep.
something different,
Right.
get up.
Yes. Yeah, change your environment. That's a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I always think about little kiddos, right? Like in preschool, everyone's dysregulated. And as soon as you go outside, everybody's like super happy and way more calm. And I'm like, that doesn't change. I don't think
No.
adulthood necessarily, right? Like
right.
everybody like regulates when they're outside for whatever reason.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I just had this flashback to when I taught preschool, and like when it would be time to go outside, we would lay out all of their things, their boots, their snow pants, their jackets, all of that. And we would lay it in such a way that they could stand in front of their jacket, put their arms in and flip it over their head.
Totally.
And now in my head, I'm like, anytime I'm with a Grumposaurus that's an adult and it's winter, I want to just take their jacket off the hook, lay it on the floor, show them how to flip it over their head and march outside with them and just be like, we're turning into our 4-year-old selves right now.
Totally. My little niece, when she was like 3, she taught me how to do that. Only like hers was flipped. So she like made it spin in the air and then put it on. And I was like, well, that's extra fancy, isn't it?
Right. Oh my God, that's so funny. It's like the silliest little things, Yeah. Even teaching somebody something new, just as silly as it may sound.
Yeah. I'm like really looking forward to like making cookies with my girlfriend and her kiddos.
Cool.
Yeah, we go to my mother-in-law's and she like gets everything ready and everybody has a super great time. We listen to Christmas music and we're silly and we have decorating competitions and then we have a cookie draft at the end.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like you should have an enlightenment session. That's all I'm going to say.
An enlightenment
section, yeah, of your cookies.
Okay, I like it. I might need some new cookie cutters.
Gonna leave that alone. I'm not even gonna tell that story on the podcast. If you want to know, you're gonna have to contact us. But it's recent and it popped in when you said cookies. I don't know why. That's so weird.
Love it.
Yeah. I don't know. Is that a wrap? Is that a weird way to end it?
I mean, maybe.
What else you got? You got any other
I
like?
don't think I have anything fabulous. I think just like
I think it's all fabulous.
well, I mean, like just be thoughtful, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't have to do the same thing that you do every year. Like you get to make different choices. Like you get to prioritize yourself. You get to carve time out for yourself. And like, and if you need like a break, like if you can feel it coming, like everybody knows, like we start to feel crispy and fried and overwhelmed and it's hard to find the joy, like, right? So then like take your foot off the gas and like plan something for you.
Yeah. And also remember that it doesn't have to be grandiose.
No.
Like it can be the simplest, smallest, different choice.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. Like if it stresses you out thinking about what you might do that's different, just back it up. Like
right. Take a shower at a different temperature.
Right.
Try a different kind of tea.
Put on your shirt before you put on your pants if you usually go the other
Climb
way.
in the bathtub.
Yeah. Right.
Shave your legs.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't have to be anything wild.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Just, anything different. Anything. It can be the smallest, simplest thing.
Totally.
Yeah. Love it. I feel like that's a wrap.
I do too.
All right. Bye. Be you every day.